why what has worked for me for these 2.5 years may actually be make some sense with how these hamstring muscles are so powerful and pulling down against the back muscle and pulling down, possibly squeezing that thick nerve right here in under the muscles and pressing against the bone under there. About 4 years ago, I think about 9 months apart, my back went out on me. Both times this happened, it was so bad that I had to crawl super carefully. First, I had to find a way to get off my bed, and I had to crawl super carefully to go to the bathroom and to get onto the toilet, what have you. The second time this happened, the first time, I went online and I found myself researching things about the piriformis muscle or whatever it's called, and about what stretches will help to stop the back from getting what they call pulled a muscle. They call it pulling a muscle. Everything I studied and I tried was always about stretching the back. It seems like that's what they talked a lot about, was stretching the back. And there was some other stuff about stretching, the sciatic area, the hamstring, stuff like that. But what I did is I kind of dived in. I'm the kind of person, when I study something, I go nuts, and slowly I sometimes get closer to an answer that's different from what doctors tell me and stuff like that. So what I finally did is I discovered what I believe to be the truth of the matter, that I personally haven't heard anybody say that this would be the answer. But for me, it's been the answer for the last 2.5 to 3 years. I've been doing, well, let's just say it was, for someone who does not do anything on a daily basis, for me to actually do this on a daily basis for the last 2.5 years or more is really unusual. But it's just to show you how important it became to me when I realized this is what I needed to do to fix my problem. So I'm going to show you the stretches I do every day. Be right back. Okay, so what I came to believe and what I came to understand is, like everybody says, we need to stretch the back because the back went out. So everybody thinks, well, the back went out, we must need to stretch the back. But I came to the belief that Americans, I'm American, maybe other first world countries too, who sit a lot at computers, for example, I came to the belief that Americans overstretch our backs. And so when we're told to stretch our backs more, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me, especially when I found out that most Americans have down close to the lower back. It's been a while since I studied this, so forgive me if I say things a little bit wrong. But under spinal cord, most Americans actually have at the lower, close to the lower back, their spine. Most Americans, you'll find out, I don't remember what it's called, but that we're overstretched here, and most people have a little bulging disc down in that area, which kind of added to my theory that Americans overstretch their backs, like with your lower back. And if you're sitting for long periods of time, then you're kind of stretching that part of the back and stuff like that. So what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years has not involved back stretches at all. I've avoided stretching my back. So what I came to conclude that helped me so very, very much was stretching my hamstrings. Like stretching my hamstrings became, so I put one foot on the floor, as far back as I could put it, and then I just put my leg up on a counter. I have a towel underneath it here. And this is what I do. I set my microwave timer, my timer, for 222. I like to keep things simple, so 2 minutes, 22 seconds. And I basically I'm stretching my hamstring, right? But I'm stretching my hamstring without stretching my back. So what a lot of people do is they'll stand on their 2 feet and they'll reach down and try to touch their toes. So they'll be stretching their back quite a bit. Like I said, I've come to the conclusion that we overstretch our backs and we don't need to stretch our backs more. What we need to do is stretch our hamstrings. And ever since I've done this, whatever problem I had with my piriformis getting, my sciatic nerve getting pinched by my piriformis muscle or whatever that's called, that completely disappeared over time. And by stretching this, now sometimes sure, I'll lean forward a little bit, or what I'll do a lot of times is I'll just push my heel back a little further on the ground, and then I'll push this back forward again to get further of a stretch. So this is an example where I'm stretching the hamstring, without stretching my back. And so this is what I've been doing for these 2.5 years. And by the way, I also found that my back was so weak back in the days when I wasn't doing this, and when my back went out on me so bad a couple times, I found my back was so weak. And I found that when I was doing this, and some other stuff I'll show you, when I was doing this, that, well, basically, just so you know, I do 2-2-2, 2 minutes, 22 seconds on one side. And then I kind of just get my leg like this, so I can comfortably lift it off of the thing here. And then I'll switch to the other side, And like I said, if it's not enough of a stretch, then I'll step my heel back and just go like that. And maybe a little further back until I feel like I get a good stretch. And I could do this, and sometimes I'll push my hip forward, if that helps me. Sometimes I might put my hand here. I really feel no pressure on my back right now. But if you just don't want to affect your back at all, then you just put your heel further even back, right? And you can go like that. So that's my 2 exercises. I do them 3 times a day, right? So I'll do right leg, left leg, and then I'll do this stretch here. Let's see, I hope you can see this one. So then what I'll do is I'll put my elbows, fold my towel kind of like that, put my elbows on the corner here, right? And then, if you can see my feet, I usually go further back than this, but I just want you to see my feet. And I'll try to touch the, another thing, by the way, that I noticed, I also had plantar fasciitis. And so this stretching routine also helped to cure that. And also, if you ever get a corn on the back of your heel, it's also caused from the same thing. The corn on the back of your heel is caused from your ligaments constantly putting tension back here, and so the bone creates a bone spur back here, starts to be pulled out by this lack of stretching in the Achilles tendon, I think it is. So this really helps so many things. So the next thing I do, basically, except I go further back than, so I'm going to go much further, but I just want to show you what I do, is I get my heels on the ground. So, of course, I'm going to have my heels much further back, but just to show you, I try to get this kind of thing here going, right? And touch my heels to the ground as much as possible. So I'm trying to get a stretch, and eventually, if you get far enough back, you can get your toes and your plantar fascia under here, under your foot. That'll start stretching. If you can get the toes and everything straight like that, and go back like that. So, yeah, I try to stretch like that quite a bit. And I'll set for 222, and I'll be doing this stretch here. So I'll do this for a while, right? And I'll even try to get it to where the toes are kind of bent also, just so I can get the, I think it's called the plantar fascia under the foot stretching. So all that stuff right there. And I'm trying to get the whole gambit from stretching this, stretching the Achilles tendon, stretching back here. So by doing those stretches, it's been just amazing. Because, like, for the longest time, I couldn't even pick up my 100-pound girlfriend, like pick her up in my arms and go lay her down somewhere if she was sleepy or something like that. Because, that lack of stretching made my back so weak. And stretching was just the answer to my plantar fasciitis, which was real tightness underneath my foot, to corns getting in the back of the heel, and to my back going out once every 9 months or something like that. This started happening about age 52, 3, 4, something like that. I'm 58 now, and I have to do it every day, or dude, like, it's amazing. Like, I have to do it every day. And so, yeah, so by doing that, instead of this thing where you're trying to curve your back, right? You're stretching your back. I don't stretch my back at all. I only stretch the hamstrings and the plantar area and Achilles tendon and all that stuff. And so after doing that for a while, I felt so good, because one day my girlfriend was sleeping and I could just feel how strong my back had become. And I went and picked her up and took her, put her to bed or whatever. And I felt so good, because I hadn't been able to do that for so long without worrying about my back. And so that's what I came up with. I just came up with that it's not about stretching the back. And I swear, when I was looking up the YouTube videos and everything, everybody was talking about stretching the back and then these piriformis stretches. I'm just saying stretching is the freaking answer to so much of having a healthy body. And, to not walking bent over like the old men, hey, Sonny, always leaning over and stuff like that. Stretching is the answer to these things, And, like I said, the proof of the overstretched American back is that, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong about that. It matters that, these stretches only that I just showed you are what has fixed my back from going out on me, for God's sakes. So that's complete proof to me, since it's the only thing I've been doing different these years. So, man, keep those hamstrings stretched out, and stretching the whole thing from your toes all the way up to your back. And for me, not my back. And when I pulled my back out, of course, I had to start real slow. And even now, still sometimes, like if I have my leg up on that counter, right? I have it up on the counter. A lot of times I'll actually grab it and pull it, and I'll like support my leg as I'm bringing it down, because it's so stretched out, or I'll just turn it around like I showed you before. So, yeah, guys, I hope that helps anybody, and good luck. Man, good luck. You won't have to be bent over when you're old. Stretching. So incredible, so powerful. Doesn't hurt to work out also. Okay, guys, I want to talk a little bit about why my stretches may actually be working to eliminate the pinched nerves, as well as why my technique may be preventing my back from going out again or getting a muscle strain on my lower back, since all of that has ended since I started my stretching routine. So as far as what a lot of people describe as the piriformis, they do these piriformis stretches so that, because they think that the piriformis muscle is pinching the nerve. That may very well be possible, but I lean toward that not being the case. And the reason why I lean toward that is because, one of the reasons is because the piriformis, when we remove all other muscles and look at it, here you're looking at it from behind. So this is the piriformis. It basically goes attaches under the front. We're looking at the back, and it goes over and connects to our, what is that, femur bone, next to it right here on the other side there, which is similar to this spot over here, if we were looking at that side. So the piriformis muscle is a very short muscle. Maybe it is possible that it creates the pinching, so it couldn't hurt to do some piriformis stretches as recommended by other people. But I tend to lean toward the fact that it is not the piriformis that is pinching the nerve. So let's just take a good look at how the piriformis connects on our body. As I said, it connects underneath here. It's a very short muscle, comes over to our leg, and we can see how it's kind of connecting here, and bring it around to the front. And we could take a look at how it's actually connecting on the underside, connecting right here on the underside of the back there. And so basically it's coming from the underside, going across. Let's back that up a little bit. Going across, and there we saw it underside, going across and connecting here. So the next thing we really want to look at is how is that associated with where the nerves are located. So let's take a look at that next. Now here we are looking at the back, the gluteus maximus right here. We've already saw that under this gluteus maximus is that short piriformis muscle, which let's just draw the connection over on this side of where that muscle is under here, which goes across, right? So it actually, this would be about the middle of where it is connected, and it basically goes across and connects here. So if we look at that angle, do it from here, we can see, get a visual that it goes across and connects about, I'd say right about here. So it goes from here, short muscle, goes across under gluteus maximus, right? And that's the piriformis. So if you pressed on your butt about here or here, you would be pressing the gluteus maximus, which is covering the piriformis, right? So let's spin that around and let's take a look at the nerves a little bit. So here we are getting an image of the piriformis. This is the connection of the piriformis as we saw before. We do get to see it in this diagram because
the gluteus maximus is not covering the other side of it. And we can see how, yeah, we get a nice little visual right here. I'm having trouble steadying myself. So there you go. You have these nerves that are coming down through here, and the piriformis muscle is below those nerves. We could twist it around a little bit, look at it from this kind of an angle, and we see that the piriformis is stretching over this direction. I suppose we could think it's possible, I don't really see how, but possible to think that this nerve would be able to move over and get pinched under the piriformis. I'm no doctor. Maybe it is possible, but if we just kind of look around a little bit, look at it at all angles, here we're getting an angle where we can really get a view of it, right? So here we're getting another angle where the piriformis is stretching back in there. And in order for a pinched nerve to occur, whoops, that was a mistake, trying to line this up. In order for a pinched nerve to occur, we can already see that all of these come together and they're pulled downward in this general direction down the leg, right? So, you know, if we back up a little bit, well, if we turn this around, we can get a better view. Basically, we can kind of see that the largest part of this nerve system actually comes down and tucks down behind these muscles right here. That's the largest part of the nerve system that's doing that. If we kind of curve it over a little bit, it gets hidden by the gluteus, but this allows us to kind of try to follow it. Oh, that was a mistake, the way I moved that. So we know it's coming down under these muscles. Yeah, damn it, I did that again. So we can see it's coming down under these muscles, and we're going to look maybe a little closer here to see that it goes here and then perhaps here down into a separate muscle section, which is the calf muscles, right? But the main thing that I want us to take a look at is where the pinched nerve may occur, right? And I guess now is when I should tell you that in my stretching exercises that have caused me to never have a pinched nerve again and never have my back go out on me again has been all about stretching the hamstrings. And so now you should be made aware of what are the hamstrings, right? So the hamstrings are about three muscles, right? This muscle here comes down, connects around the knee joint around here. That's one muscle of the hamstring. This is the second muscle of the hamstring. Comes and connects around another part there. And this is the third muscle of the hamstring here. But let's mainly pay attention to these two that are twinsies of each other, that both kind of come around and connect to similar spots on each side of the beneath the knee joint. So one comes and connects down around the side front of the knee joint. The other one kind of connects similarly to the other side. And so this is the main part of the hamstrings, right? These two here are the main part of the hamstrings that in my video, I'm really trying to focus on stretching out. Now in my video, I also talk about stretching out some of this muscle here, but that's more so that we don't put pressure and get pressure on the back of the heel. And in my video, I talk about stretching where the toes are bent upward and you're just lifting the heel and you're leaning legs forward. I show you all of that. But those are more so you don't get plantar fasciitis, which is a tightening of the plantar fascial muscle down there, right? So those are different subjects, but I talk about how all this stretching from here up to here, up to here is all important for our body health. But for this, what I'm talking about now is more about what causes our back to go out, or a pinched nerve that people relate to the piriformis muscle, which is what I'm kind of debating right now with you. So let's get back to mainly these, how important are the stretches of the hamstrings, and these being the main parts that we're trying to get stretched out, and why I think my stretching of the hamstrings is actually what helps to get rid of the pinched nerves that we relate to the piriformis more so. So bringing it back down, we can twist this around and try to get a better look at what's going on. And I guess I've already related to you that I think there's a better chance that that we're not actually getting pinched by the piriformis, right? Because the whole entirety of the leg is pulling these nerves in a downward position. And the tighter your hamstrings get, the more these would be pulled a little more taut. And I'm just saying, even though I may be wrong, that I don't think the piriformis is really responsible for our pinched nerve, but I can see how people can think the piriformis is responsible, because let's look at my theory versus the piriformis theory. Piriformis theory would create pain right about here, right? If this were somehow able to get up in here and the piriformis squeezing against that. So that would put piriformis pain about here. Whereas in my theory, I'm noticing that the biggest, look at this, the biggest part of your nerve is actually coming down behind, see it there, coming down behind these two hamstring muscles, see? Both of these hamstring muscles are going up, and they're kind of combining together into this one place. So if your hamstring muscles are super tight because you haven't been stretching them out, then maybe you can visualize, you see down here, the thick nerve going up under the hamstrings, and you see that it reappear right here. And so super tight hamstrings may actually press against that nerve right about this location here, right? So where piriformis can cause the pinching here under the gluteus maximus, we could look at that by just moving this across, right? We saw right about there, right? So we could line this up. We already know that piriformis, the middle of piriformis basically gets to this hole here. That's the middle of piriformis, and it basically goes at an angle similar to this, like that, right? So at an angle that would go, oh, I hate it when I do that. At an angle that would go across here. So we could see the piriformis being pressed against the bone would happen right about here under gluteus maximus, right? But if we take a look, we move this over a little bit, and we take a look at where the nerve could be pressed tightly with the hamstrings here, and we turn that back over to where it was, we could see that that also is beneath gluteus maximus, but a little bit lower, right? So for people to say, well, I felt, maybe the initial pain under gluteus maximus, we could see that in my scenario or piriformis scenario up higher, that both could be around gluteus maximus, right? We can also notice that if we did feel the pain higher in the middle of gluteus maximus, or maybe just a little higher of the middle, that maybe we could call that piriformis. And if we felt it maybe lower, then we could call it the bottom of the butt around there, the gluteus, right? But we could certainly clearly see how that nerve, just so beautifully tucks into and under the hamstrings, right? And so I'm thinking that very possibly those hamstrings may be pressing, those tight hamstrings when they're not loose, may be very easily pressing this against the bone back there, the bone of the femur bone, or I think that's what it's called. Wait a minute, is that an arm? Anyway, the leg bone, whatever that's called. Because as we've shown, that thickest part of the nerve comes down. Let us now make this straight. So we're looking straight at the back, right? Right. So that big nerve is there. I can see a little hint of it there. So that would go down. Let's take a better look at it. So we'd see that it goes down under this very tight muscle, down, 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 and it looks like it probably comes out. This may be it right here, or this may be it. But either way, you're seeing that they're going right down, look at this, right through the hamstrings. Do you see that? That thickest nerve is going, that was a mistake. That thickest nerve is going right down through the middle of the hamstrings. So tight hamstrings could easily be squeezing that nerve all the way down. And so very possibly that is what is causing our pinched nerves that cause so much pain. And then going beyond that subject, we can also see that the three hamstrings are also going up and connecting to the pelvis, right? The back of the pelvis here. So again, let's create a balanced view so we can compare sides. So we see that it's connecting to the pelvis here. And so we can't see with all the muscles. So if we looked at the opposite side to get an idea of what's happening up here, we see that these muscles are connecting around here. And so this right here really can't move very much, but we can kind of look in and see, right? Here's the back muscle. Here's the muscle that somehow eventually gets pulled, or somehow even pulled out of whack to where it takes time for it seems like for it to remove back. So I'm thinking maybe this is rotated somehow by these tight muscles. We have this tightness pulling here and pulling against the back muscles up top. And a pulled muscle ends up happening in the back muscles, right? And so we have this tug of war pulling down here, pulling up here. And then if we ever bend over to pick up something too quickly, then this constant pulled tension here against this tension here, eventually, as we can see, there's much more muscle here that's connected to this pelvis, much more muscle here, and much less muscle here. So who's going to win the tug of war, right? The winner of the tug of war is going to be the much more muscles pulling against the smaller muscles here. Of course, there are more muscles that we're not showing in this picture, but and that's where you might end up getting a tear here, or there is movement. We can see that this pelvic muscle here does have a space in there, right? And it's not, it is mobile. And maybe just let's take a look at we can get a look at that, just kind of look inside, right? We can see that there's space in there and that there is a mobility of this pelvic bone here, right? And so there's a mobility here, and maybe it just gets to a point, because I know when I pulled my back, it felt like something slipped. Like, I don't know if this maybe can rotate and get stuck on something here, just actually get stuck on something here, because it feels like once that happens, it's like I cannot stand straight again. My back is now bent forward, and standing straight, it causes enormous pain, which almost makes me feel like this maybe rotates downward to this direction and gets stuck. Maybe there's a bone, there's a connecting point here where it just allows it to get stuck until everything kind of heals up and it can safely find its way back to this normal position. This is just a guess on my part, but once I pulled my back muscle out, I just noticed that I could not stand up straight, right? So it was almost like if this were to rotate and get stuck down somewhere, that would create enormous pain here, and or maybe it rotates upward, who knows? But I'm just kind of speculating here. But anyway, that's just to me sharing with you why what has worked for me for these 2.5 years may actually make some sense with how these hamstring muscles are so powerful and pulling down against the back muscle and pulling down, possibly squeezing that thick nerve right here under the muscles and pressing against the bone under there until it finally comes out. And so, and why these stretches I do, stretching these hamstrings instead of stretching my back, has been the answer to releasing all this downward pressure, right? Because once we get these stretched out and they're relaxed and they're not tight, now they release all this downward pressure so that the back could function more easily. And so the back isn't playing tug of war, which eventually creates a tear right here, which is called a muscle strain and what have you. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of a real nice visual of this whole scenario here. And hope that was helpful to you. I'll spin this around just so you can get a look at everything. Boom, 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 right? Look at that. We tilt the body up so we can get another look at the nerve inside of there. See how that kind of worked out, right? Twist it around, seeing how it goes under, right? Really getting a look like that so we can see how that goes down under. Oh, now we see it. Oh, wow, look how beautiful that is. We get a real good view here of the thickest of the nerves, right? The thickest of the nerves that comes under here. That's even more reason why that's where the pinched nerve would occur, because it's the thickest of the nerves that gets caught under here. And now in this angle, it almost looks like this is the continuation of it. So, wow, fascinating.
Likey. Comment. Subscribe now.